What is up, Overwatch community, and welcome to another episode of Watchpoint, the show where we talk about everything Overwatch related. Welcome back to another week of this wonderful podcast, and joining us once again is Yiska.
Hey.
And Volcha.
Hello.
Yiska, you're first again this week. Just
Nice.
how I'm rolling through the punches. So, with beta this weekend, if you did not hear the announcement, it is, I believe, the weekend of I want to say the 15th is Friday? Yeah, the 15th is Friday. April 15th. And it's going over probably just going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't think they're going to include Monday. And then we got maybe two and a half weeks until the open beta-ish open beta. It's early access beta, and then for 2 days, and then you get like 4 days of completely open beta. All you got to do is sign up. And I believe that will end on the 9th. And then we got, 24 minus 9 is 15. So just a day over 2 weeks, and then we're at launch. So something that I personally wanted to cover is that we being in the beta, even though we are not pros, we do follow some professional scene. We can offer a lot of advice for the people who have not been scouring the internet and looking up every little tidbit and watching videos, either because you don't care because you can't play, or just because you don't have the time and you like to jump in the game when it comes out. So without any further ado, our first topic is just going to be overall general advice, something that we can offer any new players to the game that we feel will help you in your first couple days or first couple weeks playing the game. Does anybody want to jump in?
Sure. I guess this was a hard first lesson for me coming from other FPS games, is you can't take on a team and win. I was kind of used to being kind of like a heavy and fragging and coming out top, getting 5 or 6 kills and getting objectives. And not that I did that a lot in other games, but it was possible for me. This game, it's nearly impossible unless you use ultimates. It's just not going to happen. Even 2v1 scenarios are pretty tough unless you're like a Genji or a Tracer. So that was a hard lesson for me, is take the kills you can and get away with that. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I know, coming from a little bit of Counter-Strike background, if you're a good shot, you can pretty much take out 3 or 4 people by yourself, if not a whole team. But unless you're like a Junkrat knocking people off the cliff, or like a Lucio knocking people off the cliff, you're just not going to get kills solo unless it's 1v1, maybe if you're super good 2v1, and only with a couple, like a Reaper that has, well, you said ultimate. Yeah, without an ultimate, you're pretty much not doing much.
Yeah. Also, most of your kills come from some ability use, and abilities generally have a 5 to 12 second cooldown, so that's enough time for one person, one kill pretty much.
Even though it is labeled as a FPS, which kind of centers around just clicking and shooting, unless you're like a Widowmaker, you're not going to get just a point-click kill. You're going to have to blink around, charge, do something.
Yeah, and that's actually one thing a lot of people, if I wasn't playing the game, I would actually probably be surprised for my first hour how low the time to kill is. Time to kill is much, much longer than it is in other FPS. In games like CS, it's like 3 bullets to the body or 1 to the head. In Overwatch, for most characters, you need a lot of time. For instance, with Soldier, who has pretty decent damage. If you're shooting a Roadhog, dude, you're reloading twice to drops, right?
You basically shouldn't duel a Roadhog.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's that also makes it so you can't make these huge plays. It makes it so that you kill someone, and it takes so long that other people can react to you killing that person, right? And then you kill the second guy. Maybe you even get the third guy, and then the first guy's already dead again, or he's rezzed or something. Yeah. Or you try to kill him and he's being healed, and there's a med kit or something. That's all factors that really delays the time to kill, and makes it very hard to clean up as a single person, even if you're highly skilled.
Yeah. So. Especially if, you were talking about like Roadhog, and let's see who else we got. Wraith Form. We have Deflect, something like that. Any of those abilities that just
Ice Block, yeah.
Ice Block. You just sit there. You basically get caught out, because if you dive in chasing someone into their team, and then you're about to kill them, and they just use an invulnerability move, you're basically just like out of luck for 2-3 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah.
And those other two people are just going to murder you. I guess something else that I would say, just as like an overarching advice, would be the idea of the game, or well, the flow of the game seems to be run in, die, res, run in, die, res, run in, use your ultimate, die, res. And that's something that you're going to have to break, because it's a very tug-of-war based game. It's very, you have to realize your boundaries and where you can actually go, unless you're that Tracer, maybe even that Reaper. Because if you get too far on the other side and you don't get a kill, or you just die by yourself, then you're offering nothing to your team, especially if you're just running in consistently. You're feeding them ultimate by letting them do damage. You might be charging a little bit of your ultimate, but if you're not going to use it with your team, unless you wipe their team, it's pretty much not, it's not doing you any good.
Yeah.
I guess I would add that there's be prepared for there to be like heavy I guess the tug and pull. Games can flip really fast, and that's typically how they go, is they flip pretty quick based on character picks or map position, mostly about map position, I'd say. But if you're like on top of the world and you're defending and you're just crushing them as Bastion, and you're just like, this can't change, this is my life forever, you're wrong, because the next res, the next time they come back, it's probably going to change and you could lose the point. So be prepared for, I guess, upsetting losses in that way, I guess is a way to say it.
That final push is a real kick in the nuts if you're not prepared.
I mean, if you think about it, though, like, and what we're saying, that you should look out for your team to go in at the same time. Like, the people playing their first games, they will realize the last couple of seconds is when the offense really coordinates and makes it very, very hard. That could be every push you do. There's no reason why the last push should be technically more focused than any other push you could be doing. That just in that situation, everyone's like, okay, let's stop fucking around and give it a last good shot. When every single attack could be like this.
I think they hear the timer tick off and they go, "Oh no!"
It's the music that comes at the end of the game, that that deep like bass music.
They just gotta play that sound through the whole. They just gotta play that sound through the whole entire match, and matches be awesome.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, and you're like, "Oh, we got first cap real fast. We got 8 minutes. There's no way we can lose." But then you just continuously just run through the shredder and just die, and you're like at 1 minute left. And it's like, shit, we really messed up, and we don't have any ultimate charge. We're not going to win this game.
Yeah. I guess
that's another thing that I actually just thought of was I've seen a lot of, especially, let's say, Reapers, Zaryas, maybe even a little bit of Zenyatta's. Don't just throw your ultimate out, especially panic ultimates. If you're about to die, and a lot of people just go, "Oh, I'm going to save myself as Zenyatta. I'm just going to Tranquility, and I'll just get out and I'll live." You're not helping your team at all. Yeah. You're not doing anything but wasting your ultimate.
Death timer is only 5 seconds, and the maps are relatively small, so, I mean, if you die with your ultimate in your pocket, you're, like, wasting 15 to 20 seconds. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. Yeah, also keep in mind, like, if you're, for instance, if you're the last person and you're Roadhog, even if you kill 2 people, like, and you heal up, that's a load of ultimate charge you're giving them if you're going to eventually die anyway. And you're not really creating anything for your team, because the 2 players you take out will be back by the time your team will be able to regroup, and possibly that you delay your team's push too by dying too late, and then them having to wait for you, which, to be fair, nobody's actually going to do, right, in these newish pub games. But you're just... like, maybe don't heal yourself in that situation. Maybe just die. Maybe jump off a cliff or something. You know?
Yeah.
Honestly, jump off a cliff, because if you jump off a cliff, you're not giving them any ultimate charges. Even 2% can be a difference. But that's more technical stuff. But like, yeah, if your whole team dies and you're running from 3 of their players, you're not going to live. You're not going to kill them. Just jump off a cliff. Honestly, that's not a bad idea because you'll spawn with your team. You'll all be grouped together and you can all run together to push. You're not doing anything, just sitting out there alone and then like waiting in a corner as Roadhog and then popping your ultimate. What are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, in general, not thinking in the game of kills and death is probably a very healthy attitude.
Yep,
that's not only when you're playing offense, but like the problem is that you can be creating a lot more value for your team by simply being on the payload, for instance, than killing 2 people at the same time while nobody's pushing it, right? Mm-hmm. So you shouldn't think of Overwatch as a arena DM shooter where the team that gets more kills wins. It's actually the team that just pushes the objective more. Yeah. And whatever you do that helps create, these scenarios for a team where you get more, like the payload to push a little bit, where you get the channel off on these King of the Hill maps, where you get the capture point on the capture point maps. It's all, that's much more important than getting that 1 kill and making it look good on your KDR.
Yeah, right. Because even though I know there's going to be tons of people out there that say it, yes, if you kill their whole team, technically you're going to be able to capture that point, but you're not going to capture that point if you're focusing on kills. You have to move as a unit and focus on the objective and get kills at the same time. It's a balance. It's not a team deathmatch game. It's part of the objective is killing them. So if you focus on the objective, you're going to be better off.
Yeah, but even if you do wipe their whole team, you get yourself about 10 to 15 seconds of cap time. That's
if they don't have a teleporter.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, you can win this game without a single kill, right? Yeah. If you just zone people out or, create area denial situations, or you're Reinhardt and create safe space behind you for your team, it's like you're probably adding more value than the Widow that's one-shotting everyone behind you, right? Mm-hmm. Just by providing this safe spot and being there to, capture the points that, or the locations on the map that you want to get to is basically, that's the way you win the game, not by getting the frags, which is obviously a factor in creating this space.
But it's still that tug-of-war game. It's that territory war, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, and you will realize when you play the game, this game is a lot about choke points. So capturing a choke point is actually a huge deal. Choke points, they aren't really, there's not capture points that are choke points. Then they're not giving you real feedback about what you're actually doing in the game. But I can tell you, if you, for instance, get through the first choke point on Anubis and your team has that area on, under control, it's infinitely easier to capture the point. Then it's basically that's the actual real objective, right? If you're past and have secured the first choke point, that basically ensures you almost to get the capture point.
Yeah, that first choke point on Anubis is like trying to put a square into a circle. It's just so hard at first, but as soon as you pop right through it, it's an easy first point.
Yep.
Do we have any other general advice before we're kind of melting into game mode, and I do want to talk about something with the game mode. Do we have any overarching, any little tidbits anybody wants to throw in, or are we good?
Yeah. Just a real quick one is pay attention to chat, pay attention to the prompts in chat. So and so has changed. So and so has such an ultimate. That's
turn on your kill feed. It is not on automatically unless they change that, to my knowledge.
Yeah, true.
A lot of coordination can be done through those voice chats and those text prompts, and I get the impression not a lot of people are used to using them. People from TF2 and CS:GO probably are, but like if you're not used to them, it's a very good habit to get used to them. A lot of information can come through there and help you out.
Okay.
Wait, what's the standard button to get the radio menu? Is it C?
C. Yeah. C.
So an example of good information that you're not going to get otherwise is if you have a healer, and all of a sudden your healer just goes like, fuck this, and I'm out. You don't have a healer, and you don't have a way of knowing you don't have a healer until it's too late. So if you're watching those little pips come up telling you what's happening, you go, oh, we have no healer.
Do they have a fallback?
No, that they should.
A radio?
They should have like fallback and
I know they have
incoming.
group up on me. Oh yeah, incoming, group up. I'm trying to think of what the bottom one is. I can't think of the radio menu right now.
I forget.
But it's just trying to communicate anyway. Even if people are typing and people just type the letter B, people know that means back.
I mean, at best, use your microphone. Really, it makes it much more enjoyable. Like the games, the best games is like I get into your attack, so you have 40 seconds to basically waste away. You start talking to your teammate, and there's one girl talking, and nobody's blaming her. Dude, that's the holy grail. Like nobody's blaming her. You immediately know, the communication is going to be on point, and at least it's going to be a fun experience. And I'm pretty sure in these situations I'm like at 100% win rate. Like it's just the good communication, and then it's almost like a nice off where people are like, "Yeah, are you sure, man? You want to play support? I can do that for you." Like
those games are the games just like, dude, why are you not yelling at me, calling me a noob?
Yeah,
but I digress. So we can go ahead and jump into our next umbrella topic, which is going to be game mode advice. So game mode, the 3 game modes that we have is I'm still iffy on what exactly they call it, but we have obviously payload, we have control point, which is the single neutral point that we control, and I think of it as capture point, the double A and B point. Is there an actual
Call it King of the Hill? Is that what you're talking about?
No, that's capture. That's a control point. That's the neutral, the neutral one. I'm thinking of like attack defend, the double.
Okay.
But
yeah,
so like Anubis.
Yeah.
I think it's commonly referred to as capture point, actually, like control point and then capture point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why I keep getting them messed.
Yeah.
Okay. The according to the wiki, it is control, escort, and assault. Those are the 3 game types. So assault is going to be the double point maps where you capture point A, that's your initial goal, and then you move past A, the defense moves back, and you capture point B. Escort is going to be what everyone commonly refers to as payload, which, it's super easy to know. You're either A, capturing an initial point on a couple maps like King's Row and I want to say it's Nambani. Is that correct? Yes. Where you're capturing the initial A point and then a payload comes out of like a garage on King's Row or activates, and you're pushing from there. And control point is the neutral point where both teams are head-to-head trying to control the point, and it's a best 2 out of 3 in normal and 3 out of 5 in competitive.
Yeah.
So I guess one major thing for escort or payload would be if you are not Tracer, Genji, Reaper, you need to be by the payload. You need to be somewhere in the vicinity. I guess not Hanzo and because those are backliners, but you need to be somewhere near the payload if you're a tank, healer, or a defense kind of style. Because if you clear out their front line, if you clear out like a good space, there needs to be 3 people on the payload immediately because it pushes so much faster. There needs to be, because I'm pretty sure that's the max amount of people that enhances the speed is 3 of the payload.
Yes, that's the case.
Yeah. So when you clear out that section, if you're having one person's on it and the rest of the team runs up to try to kill people, you're not helping your team. That is your baby. You need to be with that payload and push it so you can get that extra time so that when you get closer and closer to that final point where it becomes that all-out battle of who's going to, finally get one huge ultimate off, and then you can make your push, or even on the final push, you need to be on that cart. That would be my number one advice for payload.
True. But the thing is, okay, 3 people need to be on the cart. It's not necessarily a mistake, especially as a tracer or something, to be this one guy that's not on the payload, because you're not actually helping them. Yeah. But when we were talking about these chokes, to just, either contest these chokes or take them for your team. So there's a little buffer between you and the payload. And possibly, Tracer is a pretty good 1v1 character. If you already are, you basically, if you're pushing the payload and you're pushing it with 3 men, there's a good chance that you're in a situation where you already won the team fight. And then Tracer is pretty good at cleaning up and, gaining even more space for your team. Right? And then because of the nature of the delayed kill, then it takes him longer to reassemble a team or a defense. So, yeah, in general, the offense characters, which are most of the time going to be 2, it's fine for them to try to, make a scouting effort or just clear some space for the payload, which it will push into, right? So, yeah.
Another thing that people don't realize, I don't know if there's that much of an indicator. There's not like an aura to my knowledge or anything, but if you stick near the payload, there is an AoE heal that happens. So if you're Lucio or I believe, correct, I don't play him that much, Zenyatta, he does have an AoE heal, doesn't he?
No, Zenyatta doesn't.
He doesn't? Is it just on Tranquility?
Yeah, and his orb.
Yeah. But that's why I play Lucio a lot. Honestly, when I'm Lucio, I ride the cart. I stick to it like glue. Because anyone that comes with you to ride the cart, or anyone that even needs a heal, they run to the cart and they get both AoE from Lucio and they get cart heal.
True. It's actually the same strength, by the way. It's both. I think it's both 12.5 aura heal for Lucio and for the payload, and those stack too.
Yeah. So you're looking at 25.
Exactly, which is as much as I believe a Zenyatta orb, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong here.
That Zenyatta was 100 a second.
100 a second sounds a little much.
Yeah, that'd be ridiculous.
That would be more than Mercy.
You said alt though.
Sure.
No,
you mean
orb.
the old? No, the orb.
Orb.
Oh, orb. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any as far as payload advice goes, besides that, I would have to say. No, go ahead. I was just talking a lot.
Well, not only use the payload heal, but more important than the payload heal is the payload cover. In a lot of instances, when you're fighting around the payload, use it for cover to reload. Use it for cover to have your cooldowns come back up. That's probably more important than the healing it gives, in my opinion, is the cover it can give. Especially if it's a tight fight. This is even on defense. If you're defending, playing ring around the payload helps by 10 seconds a lot of times, and that can add up.
Keep in mind, though, that they can shoot your feet.
Yes.
And they actually changed it in a way that a lot of ultimates that are ground-based are now hitting you behind the payloads, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still very
like
good
May,
cover.
like May ultimate is just owns the payload. Just completely wrecks anyone around the payload.
Yeah.
If they got a Hanzo, maybe not do that because he can scatter shot under the payload and blow your feet out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in general, also, your ability to hide also kind of depends on what payload it is. Yeah. What you will also notice is that the Hollywood payload is very different from the King's Row payload.
Yeah, it's super flat. You can just shoot people's heads.
Yeah. So, yeah. Which is a nice, flavor to these maps. Most of the time they kind of fit the style of the map. So, yeah, they actually, I think there's legitimately some strategies that don't work on some payloads that do on others.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, you can ride the cart all day as like Reinhardt on some of the Nimbani and Hollywood. A lot of the flatter ones, where like the fatter ones like Dorado and I think King's Row is a fatter bomb. And when you're up that high, you're not protecting anything. You can't set up like a bastion behind you or anything like that, but that's more specific. I think that as far as any of the specific maps payload, I think one of the specific maps I would talk about would be Nabani, is just because, especially on defense, because that point A that the attackers have to capture is so far away. Like when you leave that point A and you go towards their spawn, a lot of times, and even on Hollywood too, when you set up your defense, you have to realize that if you die or if you lose a couple of your legs and they push right through you, they're going to get that point A immediately. There's no way you're going to have a teleporter that fast, but you got to realize how far you have to run from your initial spawn, especially something like King's Row is a ridiculous run. It's so long.
Yeah.
So if anything, remember that your goal is to not kill them as soon as they got out of the gates. People can, pick a couple people off. If you get like a Hanzo or a Widowmaker on defense, you could pick a couple people off, and that's not a problem. But if you lose your initial front line, you got to realize that A is your home base. You got to protect that. So I would set up on A, maybe a couple steps forward. Maybe can send a couple scouts, something like that. But especially if we're talking newer people coming into the game, protect A like it's your baby, because it is. It's the whole point of you defending.
This advice would fall more on like the general advice. Don't try to spawn camp because it doesn't work in this game. It's a pretty valid
5 second. It's a 5 second respawn, and
they get like massive heals, and they're invulnerable for parts of it. On a lot of maps, you can't even really injure them in it. So don't. I see a lot of people trying to spawn camp, trying to kill people as they come out of the gate. It doesn't work. Don't try it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just talk about, I would say, Assault now. So Assault is going to be, help me out here, I think it's going to be Volskaya Industries, Anubis, Temple of Anubis, Hanamura. No, Assault. Ilios is...
Christ.
Yeah. I think that's it. Hanamura, Volskaya Industries, and I just said it. Why am I brain farting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
It's just the 3.
Yeah, it's just 3.
Mm-hmm. If anything, I would say on those maps is, like we said, we're talking about choke points and stuff like that. You just slowly tug of war. You pick a couple of people off, and then you wait for your team, and you push through. And then once you set up and you can get that first point, you have to realize that it's a lot easier for them to defend on point B, especially on something like Temple of Anubis, where it's on the other side of the wall, their spawn. Yeah. Hanamura is really, really close, but they still have to go down a couple of corridors, whereas they can literally just walk out and turn right, and they're right, and you're right there for Anubis. So I would say those more than anything, because payloads, you can kind of ride one-man payload, even though it's not a good idea. And one man can ride the payload, the rest of the team push up. With Assault, especially on, I would say, a little trick, even though we're not there yet, is that for D.Va, Genji, Reaper, Winston, I don't know if you can do it as Tracer. I'm pretty sure, though. Lucio and Junkrat. One of the biggest things I wanted to mention when we were talking about the territory tug-of-war game is that every single game on Volskaya Industries, I go D.Va or Winston. And even if I'm not going to play them for the entire game, I play them for the first point, because you jump around, you look around to the left, and you can see there's like a balcony. It's not a balcony. It's a pretty big outstretched piece of concrete with an over arc over it. And all you have to do is either as D.Va, you just jump off and rocket boost to it, or as Winston, you jump off and then you wait a couple seconds and you leap up to it. But that's going to get you around the left side, and you can come and turn right. And most people on defense, unless they're smart and you're in a much higher experience bracket, they're going to be all pushed up forward, and you can back cap them. as in you can just go to the point around to the left and nobody's going to notice you. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a, oh shit, they're on the point right now. Their team is going to all back up as your team pushes forward. And you, even if you've died, you can either A, get the first third of the point, or B, you can just move that territory up. So now your whole team is at either the train cart or I think it's a truck actually. Either the truck right underneath the bridge or just behind the building. And that's going to give you a better positioning rather than the defense team all being set up on that initial building on the roof or like in the building itself.
Yeah.
I do that also, every single game.
Like this flanking maneuver is also because that in Overwatch the rock paper scissors situation is quite expressed. So you will have a very easy time against certain characters. Like some exceptions are, I think Assault probably has the most weak counters. But for instance, if you're like a Winston and you get a flank on an unsuspecting Widow, she's gone, right?
Oh yeah.
And that, if you have to go through the choke, getting to her is quite hard. So what Trips suggested is actually, like, you can start channeling the point and divert attention. What you can also do is get that Widow that keeps wrecking your front line from the back with insane damage output, one-shotting your supports, depending on the support. But and then create these scenarios where their scissor is not beating on your paper the entire time.
Yep.
Right.
I'd say flanking is probably more important on. It's called assault, right? I always get these mixed up. Okay, it's probably more important on assault than like payload, in my opinion.
Because of that tug of war, you're taking out their back line.
Yeah, you can't cap it if someone's on it, and it caps slowly. It goes by thirds, so you can't get like really incremental progress by throwing bodies on it and like kicking it forward. So you really want to really kick the ass of the other team, get them out of the area where they can just hop on the point, so you can get it by thirds. So
yeah.
Also, the maps seem to favor flanking as a way to do that more than like the payload maps.
And what you just said is also very important to realize, is that even if a team has 6 people on the point, if you are on the point as defense, they're not channeling. Which means also there's no point in, if your last point is being capped and you're Widow, there's no point in shooting at 6 guys, but you should be dying on the point.
Yeah, if you run around in circles, throw your gas around, do something, because I've seen plenty of people, especially the snipers, where they're just sitting there. If it's the last point and they're about to win, you either die and save a couple seconds and then your whole team can push onto it because they're rezzing, or you just lose. It doesn't matter if you die one more time.
Not even to like save the match, even if it's just a 1/3. Say your team kind of wipes, you're the last person, and they're capping the first third. Throw your body on there, save that 1/3 from completing, and your team might come and wipe it off, and it would be as if they never touched the point at all. That's how it works.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think we are I think I've noticed now that we're talking about it, we are favoring a little bit of the attacking side for these. So as far as defense goes, a couple of things is that you need to set up a base. It seems kind of stupid, but you need to set up a front line. Like we said, you don't need to go chasing people past. If you're on Anubis, you pretty much don't need to be past the arch. Oh wow.
Yeah. Okay, that's not mine.
What's going on?
I just heard a bunch of static.
Oh,
we're all good.
Okay.
We're all good. It's done. But you pretty much don't need to be past the overarch in the first point on Anubis. If you can set up, you can get a bunch of Symmetra turrets. You can get a Torbjorn turret. You can get a Bastion somewhere, something like that. You can get a Widowmaker up on the top of that roof, that like balcony area watching. You just need to hold them there. You don't need to push up. And if they push, give them a little ground. You need to play footsie with them. You need to back up. You don't need to just stand your ground. If you're a Bastion and they, a lot of times as Bastion, if you're looking in the archway and you go left, there's a couple of tents, almost like marketplace tents. And I like to set up there because it's back in a corner. But if they push up, you don't need to just sit there. You need to move or you're going to just die. You need to play footsie and you need to tug a war with them a bit because it doesn't matter if they get a few feet. As long as they're on the point, you can push them back. And it's a teeter-totter.
I'd say something that's important on defense. I guess if your tank is to not let them shoot you, which kind of makes sense. But if you got shields and you got a healer on you, just put the shield up. Because they're going to charge a lot of ult on you, especially if you're Roadhog. If you're a Roadhog on defense and you're getting shot and you're like, oh, I could just drink my juice and I'm fine, you are giving them a lot of ultimate charge. And that seems to matter more on defense because the ultimates seem to favor offense, in my opinion. So if if you're sitting there as Roadhog defending and you lose like your life 3 or 4 times, that's maybe an ult or 2. And they're going to come in and throw that ult in your face before you know it and take the point.
Yeah.
So don't get shot, kids.
Yeah, that's another one. Don't get shot. So moving on to the last is going to be control point maps. If that's I'm pretty sure that's what it's. Yeah, control point map, and that is going to be Ilios, one of the new maps, Lijiang Tower, and Nepal. The biggest thing for these is honestly play Lucio and Reaper. It sounds stupid, but Lucio and Reaper own these maps, especially anything with anything. I believe Nepal. It is the third. Is it the third point? They mix them up now, actually, so it doesn't matter. But it's the point inside the temple, and there's a huge pit on the side of it. Something like that, or even Ilios, it's the map, there's a huge well in the middle. Anything where you can knock people off. Something like Lucio, Pharah's really good. If you're pretty good with Soldier, you can do it with his grenade. Or even something like Roadhog, if you put your belly up to the edge of the pit, you can hook people into it. Because you don't have to kill them. If you're Lucio on a control point map, you can just knock people off. It'll just kill them outright. Unless they're smart or like I actually knocked a Lucio off one time in Nepal and he skated back and forth on the side of the pit and got up. And I was like, are you joking me? Yeah. But yeah, something like that. A lot of times it's the same thing where if it's contested and your team owns the map, you are still getting progress. So you need to be on that point as much as you possibly can. Even if like we said before, even if you're just throwing your body at it just to die because you're the last one alive, if it's you're getting 1 to 2 more % and it's 99% and then you die and they capture it, all your team has to do now is clear off the point and you win.
Yeah.
I'd add that once you get the point, holding the corridors or the modes of ingress is important. Just keep your reticle on that and coordinate with teammates to cover the ones that you're not looking at. If everybody's looking left, then they come right, you're just going to get killed, obviously. But if you're holding those points, they're not going to be able to get in, and then you're probably just going to take the thing clean and not really be contested. They're probably not going to get anything on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, one thing that's important to realize is your first push, right when the game starts, if you're familiar with CS, that's basically your pistol round. And pistol rounds are famously very, very influential in how the score goes. Less so in CSGO, but especially in older versions. It's basically, if you win the pistol round, you're very, very likely to win the next 3 rounds. And in the same vein, it's like if you win the first fight, now your ultimates are very high, have a very high charging rate. Yep. Possibly some characters could have their ultimate for the second fight. So take the first fight extra seriously. Don't fuck around. That's where many teams lose the game already, is in this first fight. Because sometimes it's very hard to get it back if people have just, what we're saying, like throwing bodies at it, the percentages keep stacking up, while they're not really winning fights anymore. But they're still in possession of that point, and then it can, get hairy for you down the line. So right out of the get-go, like out of the start, take it as seriously as possible, because no situation other than the last percent, I guess, to win the map is going to be as intense and as important as this first fight is.
Yep.
So yeah,
okay.
Which is counterintuitive to what we're saying, have been saying, this overtime mechanic where everyone's like super focused and doing what he's supposed to do and waiting for his team to push in. Like, your overtime mechanic basically is at the start and at the end on these
control point
control point maps. So yeah.
Okay. Next up is going to be role specific advice. So pretty much we've split this up, and lucky enough, for the most part, we all obviously might dabble a bit in playing different characters, but for the most part, Yiska plays support. I know, Vulture, you love your Hanzo, but you do dabble in other attack and defenders, and I try to stick to tank, even though recently I've been trying to get my Widow game up. I'm going to get my Widow game on point, but I won't have to talk about her that much. I will start with just going down as far as the character line goes, so probably my most played is going to be Roadhog. The thing that I have to say for Roadhog himself is, you are really not a tank. You are, but you aren't. We did talk about this earlier, where if you're stepping out, you run in, there's 3 people shooting you, and then you go in the back line, you drink your potion, then you go out and you come back in, you're doing this over and over, you're not doing anything. You might be soaking up damage, and you're like, I'm a tank, I'm taking damage. No, you're charging their ultimate. What you need to do is you need to pop out of corners, hook, shoot, melee. For those of you that don't know, pretty much most of the characters in the game, and except for obviously tanks, are just going to die to the hook shot melee. So what you can do, the easiest thing to do is just set up some easy keybinds to shift, click, and then I put mine on my mouse. And you shift, click, melee, and if they need another shotgun blast to the face, you shoot them. And something they did recently change in a patch is that lighter characters, obviously like Tracer, Genji, that type of thing, they're going to be pulled right in your face. Heavier characters are pulled a little bit less. Reinhardt, easiest thing to do, like we've already talked about, is shield. All you do is, you don't need to keep moving forward. You need to stay with your team so that they can do the damage and you block them. I would watch out for things like Bastion, who melts your shield. If you see a Bastion, don't just sit there and let him melt your shield, because then he's just going to kill you and your whole team after that. You have to let that thing charge up afterwards. It's not just a cooldown. It's actually it goes to 0 and has to charge back up to 2,000.
I feel like Reinhardt needs rear view mirrors, because whenever I've played him, I've been like, charging forward with my shield, like, come with me, boys, and then
Nobody
I die,
follows.
and then I look in the kill feed, no one's behind. Look at the kill cam, no one's behind me. I'm like, what was I doing?
Yeah. A lot of the times I find myself as Reinhardt riding the payload, because you can set up things like a Bastion or a Torbjorn turret behind it, and you just ride the payload, and you let people who are other people who are sitting on the payload shoot for you. And so the payload is kind of out in the open, so you're going to be like, people who are on the payload are going to be an easy target. But that's why you offer them the shield. I'm trying to think of...
With Reinhardt, the thing is, you can be a very good fragger if you want to be as Reinhardt. The problem is, that's actually a very good proof of concept that if you are top frag as Reinhardt, there's 2 things happening. Your team is not doing their job, and you are not doing your job. Mm-hmm. Because very, very often, getting this many kills is not doing your job as Reinhardt. You're exposing your team to fire that shouldn't be there. If you're just charging around, meleeing people, you're not actually protecting them, right? And
your job as a tank is to be a tank. You are letting your other people on your team do the damage. That is their role. That is the biggest thing that I have to stress, is that if you pick a tank, it's not because, oh, nobody picked a tank, so I'm going to pick a tank and I'm just going to run around and kill people. No, you picked a tank to do your job.
Yeah, and the you know the thing that Vulture mentioned that obviously happens a lot, that nobody's supporting you when you're pushing up with a shield. That justification doesn't work if you charge somewhere. If you charge somewhere, you're the fastest character on the battlefield right now. So you're probably a lot ahead of your team. You can't expect them to back you up immediately. Unless you know what you do. Like, the charge is almost a last resort kind of thing. Your shield is about to go down. Someone's very close. It's very likely that you're going to get them. Or you want to kill that guy that's holding your cap. Yeah, then it's fine to charge. Otherwise, you hold up that shield boy.
Because I've seen a lot of Reinhardts. You're pushing or you're going down a nice open lane, and they'll just charge. And guess what? You're just free game for anyone with a gun as you're in that charge. A lot of times a charge is when you are in between, when someone is in between you and a wall and it's a decent distance. Yeah, you're going to do more damage the farther that you charge. But if you just charge, everyone moves out of the way, and you hit a wall, guess what? You're dead. And your team does not have a front liner. You're their wall.
This charge seems like more of a utility thing than a frag thing to me. To time with ultimates or to time with certain specific strategies. It's not really a good way to kill someone. I mean,
it's if you see a Reaper coming in and he's gonna use his ultimate, charge him off. Even if you go off a cliff, you save your team.
Yeah, I mean that, and it's conceptually set up in a way that you use it when you ultimate it, because now you have a secure charge, right? Mm-hmm. You can pick the angle you want to pick. You start off with Fire Strike that should probably be hitting 2 people, and then you charge into one and take one out. And it's not an initiation tool. It's not, okay, you can use it actually as a, get back quicker to your team. That's fine for that too.
Yeah, you can use it as an escape tool. Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. But it's not there to really create opportunities. It's not a playmaking thing, right? So, yeah.
Okay. Zarya, and this is a big one, is that as far as I know, they still have not fixed her laser, so you cannot aim with the crosshair. Aim with the laser. The laser is not on point with the crosshair. Another thing is, if you're waiting, nobody's coming in, but you're watching a corridor and you can see some shadows or hear some footsteps, lob some, I don't even know what they're called, but it's an alternate fire. Lob her alternate fire in there and just lob, reload, so that you're always at max cap, but you're also doing some AoE damage. You're charging up. Don't just throw away her shield, her friendly shield. Use it on things like Reaper, who is about to go in. Something like a Rhoda or a Reinhardt that's charging in, because when he's charging, he has no shield. He's vulnerable. Use it effectively. Don't just throw it out because it's off cooldown. Your shield, the same thing. You got to kind of bait it. You got to get in a duel with somebody, wait till you lose the first, 5% of your health, something like that, and then use it so that they commit to trying to kill you, and then you pop your ultimate, and they're already in the middle of their magazine, and more than likely they're going to keep shooting at you. So you're going to charge it. Other than that, really, the only thing I'd say is her ultimate is it's a setup. You can't kill people. Unless they're pretty much only already dead, you're not going to kill someone solo with your ultimate as Zarya. You need to use it as a setup, and that comes back to communicating with your team. If you have a Pharaoh with Rocket Barrage, you see 3 people, boom, black hole, you get 3 kills. Easy. You just have to work as a team with it.
For me, Zarya, she's really tough to use in a public setting or just one.
She's very coordinated.
Yeah, and when I do use her, I never am anywhere ever alone. I'm always with somebody to give a shield to, and I'm always behind him, even if it's like a mercy. I'm kind of a coward that way, and it helps to mitigate the communication problem. If they're a target, you throw it on them, and you kind of block them, get your charge up. That helps a little bit. But other than that, she's tough to use in a pub
match.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
but it's doable. And
it's doable. You just need practice and communication.
she's
Correct me. Yeah, go on.
she kind of plays kind of like a fighter in a lot of ways. Or you block, you get up charge, you do damage, and then you run away. That's how I play her. You get your
You're in
cooldowns
and
up.
out.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Kind of like you're doing a lift. Kind of like how she would lift, rest, breathe out. That's kind of how she plays. It's kind of funny.
That's conceptual.
Yeah.
And Winston, even though Winston, he seems like you want to jump in and just be in the middle of everybody and do a bunch of damage. Unless you have your ultimate, he's kind of squishy. And it's weird because he is tanky. But what you want to do is you're going for the backliners, like you can kill a Widowmaker or McCree or a soldier so fast. Ridiculously fast. So you're going to go for the squishies. Yes, your arc lightning hits pretty much everything, but you want to corner off somebody. Or even like a Junkrat, something like that. And make sure that you're using your shield on the payload if you're on a payload. If you can position it right, it moves with the payload. You're buying 6 seconds, 7 seconds-ish, unless they destroy it, of barrier for your team. Or even something like, if this is kind of, I don't know if I would call it high skill, it'd be like mid skill. But if you're on a point and you see a Reaper coming and you are, thinking he probably has his ult by now, he hasn't used it in a while, you can actually trap a Reaper in a bubble with in his ultimate with a bubble. As in, he can't do damage outside of that bubble. So if he's ultimating, you can kind of bubble on top of him and get out of the bubble. It doesn't always work exactly how it's intended, but it helps.
I played a little bit of Winston. Not much to really say. I'm very good, but what I found with him is he's terrible at initiating fights. Like, absolutely terrible. There's so many characters that have abilities, mainly abilities that fuck him up. But he's great at finishing fights or coming in the middle. From what I found,
cleanup crew. He's such a good cleanup crew.
So what I would do when I would play him is I'd use his jump to get somewhere stupid where someone can't really get me, and get kind of ready to jump down and make some mess, and wait for my team to come in and like abilities to shoot off. Then I can come in, clean up what can be cleaned up, the healers mainly, bubble so I can have some sustain, clean up some more, save the capture point or get capture point, and then jump out when I'm really low. And then regroup.
Yeah, and with his ultimate, if anything, I would say don't pop it at full health. Wait till you're about half health. You don't want to get too close to death, because then you'll, oh shit, I didn't pop it, and you'll die. But you kind of play that, you lose a little bit of health, and then instantly when you pop your ultimate, you're back up to, I think it's 600, because they did nerf it.
I'm not sure what it is.
It was 1,000, but I'm pretty sure they nerfed it to 600.
Yes.
And it's almost like a heal. And what you want to do with it, because the only thing you have is you have your pounce and you have just like your knock away, it's kind of hard to kill people unless you're really good at it. But you can do things like knock people away from a payload at the very last push, knock people off of a capture point when you almost have it and they're contesting, something like that. You don't need to kill people as long as they're not on the objective. If they're not on the objective, it doesn't matter if you kill them. You just need to keep them away.
Yeah. By the way, I think it's still 1,000. But yeah, the thing is with Winston, he's certainly not a killer. He's more like in RTS, or I guess in MOBA terms, you would probably call him a bruiser, which is basically wrecking havoc and really causing a lot of confusion. In Overwatch, you often have these pairs of two that work together. If you can break those apart, like a Pharah and a Mercy, like if you can separate them by hitting the Mercy in a certain direction, or if you can separate the let's say the Zenyatta and the Tracer, or the Lucio with his team, that's already kind of disrupting their team play in a lot of ways. And then there's obviously kill potential with every single cliff if you have your ultimate, right? Yep. So in general, he's just very reliable too, right? You will immediately realize there's not much to aim here, and it's just he's not that hard to play. He's probably on the easier spectrum of the characters, which makes him a pretty nice
accessible
hero
for new players.
Yeah. So if you don't know, if you don't feel like, having to take the super skilled roles, that's basically one of your go-to picks, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Volcha, you want to grab the attack and defend, and we can kind of play cleanup, with anyone you're not, not super familiar with.
I'll just say any character that isn't a tank, a support, or a builder. I'll just lump them into that because attack defend doesn't really make much sense. Instead of going through them, I think what I'll just say is each.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, so it's
each character. Think of them as kind of tools for the situation. Get to know your tools. Hanzo is a wrench. Farah is a ratchet. On and on. They each excel at very specific things they do, and knowing what those specific things are and when it's appropriate is pretty key to knowing who to pick, because as strong as McCree is, he doesn't fit all the roles, and you're just going to have a bad time and not give your team anything if you don't recognize what's giving you trouble and adjusting accordingly. As far as attacking versus defending, get good at your ultimates. Know exactly what you're capable of with the ultimates. One thing I had trouble with in the beginning was knowing what the ultimates were capable of, how long they took to get off, how quick they killed people. So a Hanzo dragon, looks goddamn fucking amazing. It's it looks like it would kill the planet, but in reality, it's a really bad ultimate, and you can't rely on it. I remember the first hours I played, I got a dragon, and there was some sort of tank chasing me, and I was like, I'm gonna kill him with a dragon, and I just jumped around a corner, shot a dragon. He got tickled on the shoulder and punched me to death. Just get to know your ultimates. They're not something to rely on. They're again tools in their different sets of the tools to learn. I guess I'll touch a little bit on sniping a little bit, because that's something I feel like people don't get. I think a lot of times your teammates are going to give you crap if you're a sniper role, because they're going to say you're not helping, because a lot of times they're not going to see the results of what you're doing. They're not going to see the Mercy dying down the way as they're pushing. They're going to just see the Reinhardt with the shield up. So if you're playing sniper and you feel like you're getting off what you should be getting off, stick with it. Don't let the teammates poo-poo it, because they might not understand. This goes for a lot of roles too. I guess that's all I'd pretty much say about that. I guess I could touch a little bit on Torbjorn, the builder. I played a lot of him. He can be used on offense, I guess, kind of as LOL, I got you type thing, but it's kind of fun. It kind of works. Torbjorn's guns don't underestimate his guns. Get good at his guns, and he could do some pretty scary stuff.
His shotgun in Molten Core is ridiculous.
Molten Core headshots are pretty close to Mei headshots. Pretty close. They don't one shot a 200 health character, but they get pretty close. And when you're in a team fight and you're this little rinky-dink guy running around on the floor, they're not going to really notice you, and you can get some pretty good shots off, headshots, and really help your team by dropping someone by 3/4.
Yeah, I think the builders a bit too. They're not the best on offense, obviously, but I feel like things like control points, sometimes if you can put a Bastion on a control point, you will just own that thing if you already control it. It's like setting up home base. Yeah, it's like setting up a home base.
Yeah. Also, don't get frustrated playing against those characters. Be very aware that there are, if you get more comfortable with this game, you will realize they're very, very real and, easy to apply things in order to counter these characters. Don't get frustrated right away. They are very effective, and we hear this time and time again that they have a very, very high win rate in in the lower MMR regions. Which, to be fair, like when you're going to start out playing this game with beta participants and stuff, you're probably not going to be in the high MMR range. So, like, just learn to accept that
you're gonna
as
lose.
you learn, you're going to eat a lot of dirt against these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's things that counter them hard, and they work well. Once you learn them, then they're not too big of a deal in most instances.
Kicking our speed up a bit. You want to hop on, Yiska, as far as supports go?
Sure. So, I guess the general support mantra would be, your life is more valuable than probably almost every single other character on your team. So, if you have the obvious trade-off of, do I follow this character into death, or have a 20% risk-reward scenario where he might live and kill two? Don't take it. Just don't take it. Right? So, most of the time, you being alive and keeping the team together in a way is a lot more valuable. Like, for the best scenario to explain this is, for instance, if your defense is Symmetra, there's no point in following another assault into the front line, especially when you're about to have your ultimate up. Like, you want that teleporter down no matter what. That swings the game much harder than anything else you could be doing in the offense department. Don't follow this, Tracer with a Death Wish into the front line if you're a Mercy. And just realize that you also probably have the most impactful ultimates in the game. Often. Like, the strength of support characters are most of the time in the ultimate. You could argue that is not the case for Zenyatta, but it's still pretty strong, the ultimate is. In general, you're obviously not there to frag a lot. Like, okay, Zenyatta can deal some damage, but you should be way behind the front line,
Yeah. I feel like a lot of Lucios in pubs try to duel people.
Yeah. Wall ride, be all cool, listen to their tunes and shooting down at people and then getting blown away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also realize often your ultimate is used as sort of a counter to an opponent's ultimate. So if you know someone has a strong ultimate, I had a game recently where my ultimate charge up time as Lucio timed up with a pretty good Junkrat player. Almost, like, he got it up. I heard like the tire sound, and then I was rushing to get my ultimate up, because what happens is if the tire is close and you drop your ultimate in the second he blows up, it's not enough damage. No character is going to die on this tire if your Lucio ultimate just went up, which is a huge thing, right? So the same is true for Reaper ults. You can save a lot of lives by, you anticipate the Reaper having the ultimate. You stay out of his range, and then you prepare your ultimate. You don't use it, especially on defense, to save that one character from dying, but you use it as a counter. Support plays a lot of anticipation of damage that's coming in.
Prediction.
And positioning is very crucial. Your skill set is most of the time not in aiming, obviously. It's quite obvious for Mercy. It's quite obvious for Symmetra, obviously. But even Lucio and Zenyatta, like, their playmaking potential doesn't come from them dealing damage in any way. It's just substituting your income of ultimate percentage, which is very, very valuable. So use it as so you have these offensively playmaking abilities. So you would say obviously Reaper, you would say Pharah ultimate, you would say Junkrat tires can be this. Then obviously Zarya stuff, like these setup ultimates, where you can anticipate that, okay, my team is getting sucked in, and even if no one has a follow-up ultimate, there's still a lot of damage coming in because of the AoE splash damage. If I can prepare a Mercy Res for that situation, where everyone's pulled in to the one spot that's, my mouth is watering just thinking about, 4 people being sucked into that one position and you being there as a Mercy to 4-man res, which most of the time won't happen, right?
Yeah.
Also, don't feel bad. In beta phase 1, it was different, where you felt bad if you get a 2 res off. 2 reses are actually your bread and butter right now with Mercy. Don't hold it back on her ultimate too much. Yes, Mercy is kind of with the time you get a feeling for when it is used as a counter ultimate, which let's say 75% of the time it still is, but sometimes it's also because it charges up so quickly. Sometimes it's also just, is this key character going to make a difference? So for instance, sometimes I will 1-man res my tank.
Yeah.
Which will be a huge momentum swing. If their tank is down, we have a tank, pretty huge. Or my second support is dead, and I res him because I know he has an ultimate or something. So as a support player, you need this kind of cerebral spatial awareness approach where you know more about the map than probably an assault character needs to have, right? You're kind of the team not team captain, but like it almost is sort of like a shot calling position also offers itself to the support role. So because you're also a little bit back, you got that field vision. It's much easier to achieve than your Reinhardt sticking behind a shield and you're wondering what's happening behind you.
Yeah.
So yeah, support bread and butter. Don't trade for other people's lives. You're probably more valuable. Consider your ultimate like as a shit hits the fan, let's fix it sort of deal, and don't overextend basically.
Okay.
I had a friend that said that they picked the healer based on who the characters were, and that seemed to be pretty effective, who the teammates were. So for example, if there's a Reinhardt and, a McCree, probably the McCree's going to stick around the Reinhardt, so go, I guess, Lucio, because it's going to be kind of like a bubble, and you heal the bubble. If it's, like a lot of spread out wackiness, go maybe Mercy or maybe Zenyatta, I guess. That was his advice anyways, as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Okay. So next up, and I'm going to try to keep these, we've been kind of free for them. I'm going to try to keep these a little bit shorter because we're running over an hour now. Meta advice, or just in general, some cheese comps or double comps, like if you and your buddy want to play together, a couple of good characters that go 2 and 2 together. And so first up, I'm going to take one that's super easy that we already said, would be Mercy and Pharah. Super easy. Pharah's obviously going to be the playmaker. Mercy's going to be the dog following along. But the thing is that as Pharah, I know I've played with a couple of people, and you have to realize where your Mercy is. You can't just go flying around and hope that she's just going to tag along behind you, because once she hits that arc, even if you have a decent rocket boost, once she hits that arc, she's just going to fall to the ground. So if you're flying over the enemy team, you have to realize she has to have a balcony, she has to have the top of a bridge or something like that to land on, so that she's safe, she can still buff you and heal you. And then on the Mercy side of things, obviously you want to have them boosted the whole time, but don't favor boosting for not topping off your Pharah, because your Pharah, yes, will do more damage, but she needs to be alive to do that damage.
Yeah, and if she dies, you're gonna kind of like fall down like a flake, probably, unless you got a teammate nearby you can swoop to.
Yeah, that's quite important to realize as a Mercy in general. Is we talk about these breaking points of HP pool where it makes a lot of difference, and that's why Symmetra was also so strong, right? Mm-hmm. So you not topping off your Tracer that then gets one shot, even though she has a Symmetra shield, at that situation is a huge difference, right? Or simply not topping off certain, like just realize in certain situations, topping off is required, and sometimes it's not the best thing to do, right? Depending on the situation, and that makes it very hard to play in a sense. Like playing Mercy is more than is obvious to the eye. You know, there's a constant calculation of what the highest value play is. And if you're playing against a Widowmaker, you want to top off your 150 HP characters if you have a Symmetra especially, obviously. Yeah. So,
I guess as far as the Pharah Mercy combo, Beware Sniper is a kind of like, that's what counters you. Or if you're up against this combo, go Sniper, or maybe McCree, probably Soldier. That'll pretty much shut it down.
Yep.
Another comp that you guys, another duo comp or something that you guys want to mention?
It's like the Reinhardt and Bastion behind the Reinhardt. Or I guess Torbjorn turret, sort of, but mostly Bastion. That's another one, you know, on defense that I had trouble against a little bit when I was new in the game. Like, how do you deal with that? And it's basically a turret that has over 2,000 HP, like 2,300 HP. So, yep.
And Bastion's damage ridiculous. Like, it got ridiculously better with one of the recent patches because he lost his shield. So, if you stare a Bastion in the face, even as some of the most tanky characters, you're gonna die. You're just gonna die. So, and how to counter that comp, I would say something like a Genji if the Bastion is not shielded, but if the Bastion is shielded, you can do things like Symmetra is okay to poke with, something that you can get over the top, like a Pharah can fly up over the top, but you got to watch out. You got to take it from a different angle because if the Bastion sees you, you're just, you know, it's like shooting birds.
Yep.
A Reaper, even if they can get close enough to Wraith form in, you know, that can help. Diva's defense matrix is pretty useful too. If you can coordinate,
because if that Bastion can't get up out of sentry mode fast enough, and if you shoot it into the skybox, which is a decent, you know, so that people can't hide behind things too well. So what you do is you just tip your cursor up and you just use her boost and you just throw it up into the skybox.
That's her ultimate, but her like defense matrix, it'll stop incoming bullets and protect your teammates.
You're talking about that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I was thinking of her pull ultimate, but yeah, her defense matrix works as well.
Even
I think also.
Oh, go ahead.
I think also Junkrat works pretty good against that. Like if you have some, you know, if you have paid attention in your geometry classes, I guess you have a good understanding how to angle your shots so you're never really facing the Bastion, right? And you're dealing a shitload of damage to the shield of the Reinhardt, which is also a viable strategy. There's no quick way for him to regain his shield once it's down, other than not using it, which gives you a huge opening, or your team, to then get to the Bastion too. Right?
Yeah, something a little bit more tricky would be to throw your C4 over top of him, and you can knock him forward and basically open up the gate to kill the Bastion.
Can he be knocked around in turret mode? I don't think he can.
No, not the Bastion. I'm saying you can knock Reinhardt away from the Bastion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You can hook with Roadhog. You can hook the Bastion in turret form.
That's true, yeah.
Another, I don't know if it's really cheese comp, but something like a Zenyatta Genji, which even though with the nerf to the Genji orbs, it's still potent if Zenyatta's good at positioning.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, if you're in communication with your Genji and you discord someone, they're dead. Unless they're Roadhog.
Yeah. And that comp gets scarier the higher MMR you are. It's obviously not, you know, at the absolute top of the food chain anymore. Zenyatta is almost not being played anymore because of the nerfs, and or let's say not with a Genji anyway. And it's it's still really, Genji is still a pub stomper, right? So if a Genji is better than you will notice that he will, run circles around you, which pretty much is true for Tracer too, right?
Yeah.
Where it's currently a lot more expressed in the competitive community.
If anything, I would say how to kill that comp would be kill the Zenyatta. Because
he's super squishy, yeah.
Yeah. He can easily be one shot with like a Widowmaker or something like that.
I guess lesser Genjis that aren't godlike, Mei can shut down. Winston can, and Zeri is actually pretty good because he relies on burst, poof damage, and you can pretty much mitigate that on yourself and teammates with the shields, and he can't really reflect your beam in his face. So.
You can also trap him with the Junkrat trap, and he's caught out. He can't really do much, but maybe he can deflect if he hasn't popped it already.
Yeah, even the McCree is a skill matchup, right? If you manage to not flashbang yourself into a Genji reflect, then it's a very doable matchup actually, which the better player usually wins.
Yeah. As far as team-wide comps go, if you want to talk to your team and you want to say, hey guys, let's try this out. If anything on defense, I would say turret meta is ridiculously strong in newer games. In lower MMRs, people just don't know how to deal with it. So if you just stack up Symmetras, Torbjorns, and Bastions, and you set up on the point well enough, spread out a bit, take each person take a corridor, and just handle everything well, you can pretty much hold the point. Even when I first started playing, there was times where our team just could not break the first point, and we lost the game right there.
Yeah. Just to emphasize how different the perception is, which we did early in the episode, but I've today read a discussion of competitive players at the top where they say they fucking love having turrets around, especially the Turbine turret. It's like, don't kill it, don't. That's like the source of a lot of ult percentages.
Yeah.
And it's not causing enough trouble for your team most of the time to actually get rid of it. Like, if the Torbjorn is repairing it, that's a lot of percentage on the characters you choose to put it on. So, yeah, the power swing is super hard in terms of how good you are and how good these characters are, basically.
As far as other cheese comps go, I can't really say as far as cheese comps go because I try to stick to something that I feel will work a little bit. You could do all Winstons just to kind of overwhelm them.
Well, Winston in general is kind of tough for newer players, I'd say. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
But if we're not talking cheese comps, if we're not talking that, the last bit of meta advice that I would give out is that you're not going to gain any success by fighting with your teammates to just play someone that you want to play. You are more than welcome to play whoever you want, obviously, but if you are trying to win, you can take that support role. If you've never played the character, support characters are fun. If you don't have a tank, pick up that tank role. Just, try your best to view the landscape of your team. If everyone's picking damage this round, just go ahead and pick up a support or a tank. And then, as the games progress, you'll find those people who first pick Mercy, first pick Lucio, Reinhardt, those type of things, because they want to get good with those characters, and then you can slot in. But, you need to have a certain team makeup, and the fact that if you are more organized than the other team, especially in newer games, you are going to win and you're going to have more fun doing it.
Yep. Also, be very honest to yourself what your skill set is. Pick to your strength. If you're an analytical player and you don't really have a lot of aim per se, you don't have a talent for tracking or something, you really shouldn't be playing support, right? So, like, support is so talent relying in terms of assault is so relying on good aim and like more so than almost any other. Like, okay, in some situations it's also pretty good on Zenyatta, obviously, but in general, like there's some characters you just cannot play if you don't have these mechanics, which is like Tracer relies a lot on tracking, and McCree is like, if you're not a god at Osu or something, like what are you doing playing McCree, right?
Yeah.
So
obviously there's still that you're more than welcome to play whoever you want, but you have to dial back your expectations of, Tracer sucks because I blink in, spray a whole clip against a wall, and he didn't die. Like, you have to realize it's going to take practice, and that's fine in quick match or something like that. But if once you hit that level 25 and you try to jump into competitive, people are going to get a little bit irritated if you're still practicing in competitive. Just play to your strengths.
I guess I want to talk a little bit about competitive versus kind of the casual mindset. If you're new and you're not going to be going into competitive, God, I hope you don't. You stick with casual, learn the characters. It's okay to lose a match. It's okay to stick on a character and learn the character and get your butt wiped and get your team kind of has a rough time. That's okay. That's where that's supposed to happen. It might be a little bit frustrating, but that's where you learn. That's where you learn that, like, a McCree isn't good in this scenario, or a Pharah gets eaten by Widowmakers. So if you're new, don't worry about people try-harding and being like, we're not winning in casual. Have fun. Play what you want to play and learn the game. That's what the casual's there for, and that's what you should be doing. Don't listen to them. Fuck them. Have fun.
Okay. And with that statement, I'm going to bleed into the final topic, which is kind of our advice on how to interact with other players in the game and how to work as a team. We dabbled in it a bit early on in the cast about, using the emotes and some of the commands, maybe typing in chat, something like that. But the thing we kind of didn't stress too much on is use your microphone. No one cares what you sound like. If someone cares what you sound like and they're going to be like, oh, you sound like you're 13, mute them. They put it in there for a reason. People are going to get salty. People are going to get bitter because it is a competitive game. And you have to dial back and realize, this guy's kind of being an asshole, but he's probably just emotional. He's probably just trying his hardest and he's irritated in the moment. Mute him. Get on. Don't fight with him. Just, do your own thing. And the rest of the people on the team are going to communicate with you. If you're not coming from, 5 years, 6 years of MOBAs, if you get into an argument with someone else on your team, you lose. You just lose. Because either you sit there bickering and arguing and not fight and not focusing on the game, or one person pouts in a corner and AFKs or feeds or does something like that. It just never turns out well. So try your hardest to control your emotions if you think you're a rager, or, just take the 2 seconds to mute that person if, you feel like they're being rude to you. And that's fine. And then, you can, at the end of the match, you rate them negatively, and pretty much you'll probably never get matched with them again unless they get invited to a group or something like that you're in.
Did they remove rating characters? Maybe they moved the menu. I tried to rate somebody the other night, and I hadn't tried in a while, and I couldn't.
I think I rated someone the other day.
Oh, maybe they moved it on me.
Not sure either, yeah. Like, rating matches is obvious, but I don't know about players. Yeah, I mean, in general, like, also part of using the voice is a lot of people, like, it takes a special kind of asshole to, when it's so personal, someone's actually using their voice and, showing no insecurity in that way, takes a special kind of asshole to then keep hitting on these people and, keep flaming. And most of these internet tough guys are only tough in chat. And once you engage them with voice, they're basically mute, right? So don't make your enjoyment of the game depend on these people. it really doesn't matter that much, like what they say in that situation. Overwatch games are so short, like, I don't know, like, even if you're playing competitive, you're looking at probably 30 minutes tops. You're playing with these people, and then they're gone, and never to be seen again, especially when the game hits live service and the player base is much bigger.
Yeah, but the thing is that using voice communication and knowing, hey, don't go in, hey, back up, instead of trying to fumble around with some of the commands. Obviously, if you don't have a mic, there's nothing you can do but use the commands and try to type. But if you do have a mic, even if it's, you pull it out of your drawer that you haven't used for a while, you plop it on your table and it's a shitty, super staticky mic, as long as it's not hurting anybody's ears, that communication of, I have my ultimate, let's go, and you go 3, 2, 1, everybody goes, being coordinated even with a bunch of random people, while yes, it's hard, it doesn't always work out, but if you are even a hair more coordinated than the other team, and you're trying to work as a team, you're gonna be better off.
Yeah. In almost every multiplayer game I've played that had sound interaction, like for instance in CS:GO, I'm probably not on the skill level of a global elite, but just by constantly communicating, giving information, not being like whiny little bitch, you can carry yourself out of a lot of situations. Like communication, even if you're a shitty player and you want to compete in Overwatch in the competitive ranking, like just by communicating, you're helping your teammates also sort of get in this clear mindset. Because what I find is, like, especially if I'm playing a lot, I get into this grind mode where I'm just using the skill set that I already innately have. I'm just aiming and stuff. I'm just running in, trying to outduel someone. That's not the approach that games should take. If you're saying, like, it's one thing to say regroup with the radio menu. If you say it in game, okay guys, let's group up. That's like this spark that gets me out of this grind mode where I think
human interaction.
He's actually right. Why am I doing this? Like, I'm not thinking about the game actively. I'm just doing these
tunnel vision
practice things that are often actually mistakes. Like, I'm not analyzing my gameplay, but I keep making these mistakes because I kind of grinded them into my play, and I'm not really thinking about it. And then if someone is able via voice comms, which honestly, like, the radio menu is awesome and all, but it can't do that. It can't, pull me out of that state of mind. But if someone is like, okay, guys, yeah, we've been messing around, but what if, let's go together. I'm like, dude's right. Let's do that, right?
Yeah, it kind of brings up morale and everything like that.
Yeah.
Not that I want to force anybody out, but Vulture, I'm going to give you a chance before we wrap up. We're going kind of long today. I want to give people a chance not to sit here and melt their mind watching or listening to all of this. Kind of make it nice and tight for people. So do you have anything that you want to say as far as social goes as a closing statement?
The community's pretty good in this game so far. It's not bad. Don't be afraid to get out of your social phobia and get on the mic and tell people what you're thinking in the game. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. As far as I am trying to wrap up real fast. Does anybody have anything going on? Usually I try to buy some time going seat to seat. Does anyone have anything going on this week or coming up that they would like to announce, or are we just kind of all working on projects still?
I'm working on getting Vulture some sweet clips. Like,
yeah.
Okay. I can mention that. I totally forgot in the intro, but I'll do it next week in the intro. I got a bunch of static. We've had that, so I will say for that, as far as that goes, I don't know if that's just on my end, but if there has been a couple of audio fumbles, we do apologize for that. But we're still roughing it here in beta phase of our podcast. But not to trail off, so what you guys are seeing right now in the background should be a nice big clump of video clips that we have playing instead of the usual images that we had previously. And so what you guys can do is, rather than just play the games, unless you string a lot of play of the games together, which that's kind of iffy. But I would rather see, if you had a nice 10-minute game as Tracer or something like that, and as anybody, obviously, you can go ahead and email us the clip itself at watchpointtv@gmail.com. There's no spaces in it. It's just watchpointtv. And we'll go ahead and throw your clip up. We're just kind of, collecting any clips that we can to put up in the background. You can keep a lookout for your clip. We might go ahead, if we get some nice clips, go ahead and thank people individually, unless obviously we get a whole huge amount of clips. We can't spend too much time, but we put it in like the description or something like that. But as far as the YouTube stuff goes, you guys are doing wonderful. Some of the Reddit posts, we're getting a lot more talk. We're progressing slowly but surely. So it's one of those times again where I'm going to say, make sure you just share the video around. If you come here often but you haven't hit that subscribe button, just do it. It helps us out a lot. It gives us that little boost of motivation to keep coming back every week, coming with fresh ideas for you guys, like all that other stuff. I'm not going to hammer that away too much. Mostly I'm worried about the subscribing because I want you guys to see our videos. I want, you not to miss out and go, oh, hey, did Watchpoint, did they make a video this week, and then have to Google our name and stuff like that. It'll just be nice right there in your YouTube inbox or just the front page of it. Other than that, guys, if you get into beta this weekend, come play a game with us. Shoot any of us a invite. I'm pretty sure we'll be more than likely to play with you guys, especially some of the new people. We can kind of shoot the shit and play some games. Good luck. I do believe invites don't go out until Friday, so most people don't know. But other than that, we will see you next week. Have a good night, everybody, and play well.